You're listening to Empowered to Lead, the Therapist Practice. I'm Lisa Catello, therapist, business coach, and your go-to for all things leadership and sustainable practice growth. This is your space for real talk, smart strategies, and grounded support to help you lead with confidence, work with intention, and build a business that actually works for you. Let's dive in. Welcome back to the Empowered to Lead podcast. This is a space for therapists who have started and are growing a group practice. And one of the things that I am so passionate about is helping entrepreneurs step into that leadership role, CEO, whatever term you want to use, as the owner and leader of your small business. And so we spend time here talking about you as an owner, how to grow as a leader. We have examples of other group practice owners, and they're sharing their stories. And at the core of it, I want you to know you are not alone. This is a very important role that you have in owning a business where other people work and come and need you to be leading well and to guide them. And so the last couple of weeks, we have been talking about what it looks like to get support as a group practice owner. I just want to put in a little plug because I think as a group practice owner, you've started out quite often. You start out in private practice, and that feels like your world gets small. You work behind a closed door. Other people don't really understand your entrepreneurial perspective. And then you step into being a group practice owner, and it feels like your world gets even smaller. And so how are you getting supported? One of the ways that you can do that is by joining one of our retreats, getting in-person peer support, encouragement, leadership from me and other people that I lead these retreats through. I have 2 retreats coming up in the next year. One of them is in the Muskoka Woods area in Ontario, and the other one is in Costa Rica. It's going to be amazing. So you can head over to my website to find out more details about those retreats. Today's going to be a little bit shorter of an episode, I think. I want to walk you through ways to identify what you need for support. And so a little bit of a support map, for lack of a better term, helping you find some guidance, some steps for maybe some of the areas in your business life where your support is lacking, and you might be able to identify the gaps. Maybe you feel pretty supported, but you're also starting to feel burnt out. And so taking some time, grab a piece of paper and a pen, or grab your phone and your notes app. If you're driving, save this podcast to come back to and work through these steps and really see, are there gaps in the support that you could be asking for and getting so that you are in this for the long haul. When you are getting support, it also helps you to lead from intention and being purposeful instead of coming from behind and trying to catch up or feeling overwhelmed. So that purpose, that intention, seeking out support in different ways. So there's 4 different categories that I want you to consider. The first one is operational. This one can be pretty easy to clarify or to identify. If you go back and listen to last week's episode, you'll remember that we talked about some of the reasons why we object to getting support in some of these areas. So if you find yourself kind of balking at any of these areas that I say, hey, maybe you could use some support in them, go back and listen to that one and try to be curious about where your objections are coming. So the first one is operational. We can look at administration, client intake, billing, third-party billing, the billing of if you have contractors, the payment of your contractors, scheduling your schedule. Maybe you can get some support there. And also the scheduling of your therapist, how that might look. Another area that you could use some support in is clinical and supervision and consultation. And so that's both yours and what you provide for others. Leadership support. So where do you need support in setting out your strategy, in HR concerns, in finances, and then personal. So your mental health, your home support, your rest rhythms, how you take care of you. Let's dig into those a little bit more so that you have an idea. You probably already have some things that come up, but I just want to expand those a little bit so that as you're driving along or you're on a walk, you can consider this and identify where are some of the categories that you are lacking. So operational. A lot of times because we're the business owner, we created this business, we know how it works. We either don't bring on administrative support or we stay wanting to control it all and we stay way more involved than we actually should be. And I'm actually going to use that word should, because as the owner of your business, you are supposed to be working on the business rather than in it. So if you are in the daily operational tasks of making your business work, that is not your role anymore. So administration, that looks like creating systems, making sure that people are getting their questions answered about processes in your business, knowing who you can refer clients to sometimes too, keeping a list of referral sources, of networking, of marketing, those kinds of things. Administration is also managing your inbox. So sometimes it's giving over some control to your operations manager, to your admin assistant to say, hey, can you go in and answer the simple emails, the simple questions so that I can maximize my administrative time. Your billing. And so some of us hold on to this because we want to keep control in theirs. Some of us are quite happy to give this up sooner than later. So that looks like a bookkeeper. It looks like letting your admin read and proof the invoices that your contractors submit. It looks like them taking over your third-party billing, those kinds of things. Scheduling, again, we talked about that. Your schedule, so letting somebody else be in control of it. I know when I finally said, hey, I'm not going to do consultations and I don't want to be booking clients into my schedule because I just put them in anywhere because I have a hard time saying no. I let my admin be the one to do that, and that just helps so much as far as my schedule goes. As far as keeping in there and knowing what your team's schedules are, how can you free that up so that that is not on your shoulders if that's where it feels like you need some support? When you look at clinical, what does clinical support look like? So for you as a business owner, who are you getting supervision from? Who are you talking to that understands you as a clinician and, can help you with rough clients, but also just that accountability as a therapist? If you are still seeing clients, I would say that I would really encourage you to be getting some support that way. Consultation. So that can be peer consultation, getting some support that way clinically, finding like-minded therapists that you can just kind of hang out with and talk about a training that you're taking or getting support that way, peers. Leadership support. So strategy. Where are you going? What is the next step in your business? Who can help you when you think about HR issues? Whether that's creating a contract or dealing with a difficult situation with a therapist, or if it's what does money look like? How do I track my finances? What's the best use of my time and energy? So that could be a bookkeeper to help you with the finances. It could be an HR consultant or an employment lawyer to talk to about HR things. Rather than just throwing out a question on Facebook to get an answer, go to the source to get it related to your specific company and also the right steps forward so you don't get yourself in trouble. Strategy could be bringing on a coach I love doing that, helping people figure out the next step forward. And I think sometimes getting someone who has that third party view or that like overview and not the investment in what your decisions mean for anybody related can just help so much. And being purposeful in that. Reading some books, Run Like Clockwork, Buy Back Your Time. There's a bunch of books out there that you could use to help support you with the strategy side. Personal. So are you getting your own counseling? Are you taking care of your mental health? Are you taking breaks? Or are you sitting and doing 12-hour days between clinical and administrative work? Are you coming home and working when you've already worked during the day? What does home support look like? So sometimes that means hiring a cleaner or paying your kids to clean the office and the house. That can look like using HelloFresh to help you create meals so that it takes some of that load off. And then making sure you get to bed on time and taking your weekends off, making sure that you're shutting off work when it's time to slow down and go to sleep. So now, as you have considered each of those areas, so you're considering operational support, clinical support, leadership support, and personal support. Now you want to map it out. For each of those areas, I want you to ask yourself, what are you currently doing? What kind of support are you currently receiving? What is someone else doing? So in each of those areas, maybe you have already delegated and you've already got support. What are other people doing in each of those areas? What needs a place? So maybe as I listed those areas that you could be getting support, you're like, and this piece feels really big. So where does that need to go? What needs a place? And then what's missing? You may say, hey, Lisa, you touched on administration. I feel like I'm drowning in here. And this is the piece that you didn't mention. Or there's a category that doesn't quite fit in there. Your kid is really struggling in school and really needs your support. And that takes your energy and your focus away from taking care of you, of supporting your business. That may be something that's missing. So what are you currently doing? What is someone else doing? What needs a place? And what is missing? As you look at that, you want to find ways to interpret your map, because it isn't actually a map yet. All it is a cluster of spots in one place, and they're not going anywhere right now. So let's interpret it before you figure out how you're going to move forward. What does this show you? Where are you overloaded? So you may look at those places, and I could use some support in there in each of those areas. But when I look at this area, I feel super overwhelmed. So that's the part that you're going to start with. As you look at your map, as you figure out, I'm picturing Google Map, and you add these points in there, and then you got to move them all around to figure out what's the best course forward. Start with that one where you're overloaded. And then where is the practice vulnerable? If you are not getting support in this area, how does that expose your business? And that can be a hard one. And also such a good perspective because you're protective of that business, which could and should translate into you being protective of you. Where do you need investment? So as you look at each of these areas, as you start to map it out, where does money come into play? What can you afford to hire out for? And what do you need to get done in-house? Or maybe there's a little bit of give and take of, I really should or could be investing or paying somebody to do marketing. I can't afford that right now. So support looks like getting a teenager to do it or scaling back my expectations of myself. Where do you need financial investment? And then where can you step back as you look at all of those areas? Where can you delegate? Where can you, when even using that example of marketing, Maybe you actually need to downgrade the expectations that you have of yourself. So when you think of support, that actually comes internally too. It doesn't just mean how do you get external support. So my leadership challenge for you this week is fill in that support map and choose one area that you are going to strengthen this quarter. So this is going to be released in February. We are mid-quarter, and so that may sound like, what? Like, how does that work? So let's say by the end of June, what is one area that you really want to strengthen, and how are you going to do that? Map it out, set some goals, talk to people who can support you as you map out your leadership support. I would love to see your map and hear the areas where you're like, oh, I can actually do this, or hey, this is how I created my map. These are the steps. So again, I'm just going to reiterate it because I know if you're like me, you've listened to this and then you've been in the car and you're like, yeah, I'm going to remember to do that. So you can fast forward to this part of it when you get back to computer. So you want to map out the 4 areas: operational, clinical, leadership, and personal. For each of those, what are you currently doing? What is someone else doing? What needs a place and what's missing? And then interpret that map. Map out how that's going to go. So interpret where you're overloaded, where the practice is vulnerable, where you need investment, and where you can step back. And that helps you map your points of what's next. What area of support am I going to focus on next? And then choose one area that you're going to strengthen in the next quarter or by the end of June. I hope this has been helpful and that you walk away, at least by the end of June, with more support that actually fits your needs. Thanks for hanging out with me on Empowered to Lead, the therapist practice. I hope you're walking away with something that you can put into action, because leadership isn't about doing more, it's about leading with purpose. If you're ready for deeper support, I'd love to see you inside the Group Practice Connection, my monthly membership where Canadian therapists like you get coaching, community, and the tools to build a business that actually supports your life. You can check it out at grouppracticenetwork.ca. The link's in the show notes. And hey, don't forget to hit follow so you don't miss what's coming next. We're building something great here, and I'm so glad you're a part of it.